and even up to 2020, it has been downloaded a few times as well. Another one was done, well, from my student, Jim from Thailand, and the knowledge management platform for promoting sustainable energy technologies in rural Thai communities. So again, well, you're able to see the abstract, you'll be able to download a few pages from the front, and also can download the full thesis as well. And in this particular one has been downloaded 1,880 times, and even up to 2020 has been downloaded. You can also see my public information. Well, as you can see that from Google Scholar, so you can give them my overall citations, and also, well, which was my most cited paper. And my citation is around 3,600, 700 something. Citations index is 28. I must confess that this is not high. Well, you will see a lot of researchers much higher than me. Say, for example, Professor Ian Ferguson, I just checked, well, later on, well, who is going to speak at 6 o'clock in IST time tonight. I think he has the H index around 48, well, close around double my one, and also his citation is around 8,000 times or so. So you'll be able to use this to assess, well, certain people's performance. But I'm really glad in terms of the paper, which was published in 1993, well, has remained as my most cited papers, together with my with my late supervisor, Professor Kitpo Wong. And even though the paper was published in 1993, you can see even up to 2020, it's still being cited. So I consider this is really well recognized. Another one is published in 2010. Okay, as you can see over the years, actually citation of this paper has been growing up, and this one has been close to 300 citations on this. And others, well, means you can take a look is from the ResearchGate, well, whereby they consider my H factors is 21, well, counted as one top 15% of the well of the members among the members. And then well, Explore, they also have my papers, 126 were insider. And Scopus, they consider, well, I have 200 papers under the repository and 1,184 citations and H factors of 16. So what does it mean? So I have talked so much in here, not so much in really just I'm trying to blow my trumpet and also try to well, brag about my performance. Honestly, it's way beyond that. I don't really consider myself as a tip-top researcher. As I have said, you can find many, well, much better than me. And well, my late supervisor, Professor Kitpo Wong, his H index is 78. Well, some of you may not be aware what does it mean by H index. So what it means is the number of paper has been cited, well, n number of times. So if I have a 28 citations, even though 28 H index, even though that my overall citation is around well, close to 3,000 to 4,000, but it means that 28 papers have been cited 28 times. So Professor Ian Ferguson have an H index of 48. That means that he has minimum 48 papers have been cited minimum 48 times. And for my professor, he gets 78 papers cited minimum 78 times. So you multiply the factors and you know how many times the paper has been cited. So what can you observe from this? So what I want to show you is, well, this is really one of it that could be counted as your research output, and then well, how you consider to be productive. In other words, well, how well the people have been using your papers. And I consider, well, from my university point of view, the number of downloads, it could be one. You take a look in terms of the other resources like ResearchGate, Google Scholar, they always count on these, well, H factors, citations, etc. So the first thing is that when you publish a paper, the first thing you have to realize that your paper is going to be with you forever, it's part of the CV, and that they can be, should be publicly accessed, well, in the public domain as well. Second thing is, well, you can use this one, and as a matter of fact, that's what the government and the university are doing now, which I'll repeat this statement later on. They are now being used to assess one's academic performance or achievement. You heard so much people talking about, oh, what is the ranking of this university? And similarly, well, they use this kind of information to assess well, the performance of the university and the individuals. And now the access of those publications can either be open through the subscription or payment or on other basis. What does it mean by this? When you look into, well, when I share with my page, well, my university tell you 61% of those papers are full text accessible and they are open access. What it means is, well, those papers you can access the whole lot, the complete paper. And that's what we call the open access. As a matter of fact, that is going to be one of the decisions you can make for you to make your publication where you submit in time to come. Another one, more traditionally, is full subscription basis. A good example is like IEEE. Although IEEE is now also opening up for open access, but traditionally, a lot of those papers, you need to be a subscription. You need to be a member of a certain society before you can access those papers. Or maybe you can download the individual papers. Well, you pay by each paper, maybe $31 for US, etc. So this has been, have some implication in terms of the H factors, citation, etc. Because if people are able to access the full papers, that means it is likely that they're able to assess, well, the more details and cite the papers. So even IEEE, we are facing that challenge. Okay, are we going to make all the papers open access? That will come a little bit later. I'll talk about that again. So now come back to the fundamental question. Well, my topic is talking about the publishing for a productive career. Then, well, why should I write and publish? Then I would say, first of all, well, your publication is really part of your research training. Second thing is, well, you also need to gain experience in the publication process because you have a lot of things to follow. Say, for example, the guidelines in terms of all the formatting requirements, in terms of the size of the fonts, what font you should be using, the margin, all those things, well, you need to follow it, well, precisely. And also on top of that, you need to be very precise, okay? You need to be, well, as much as possible, you should not really have the grammatical problem and all those things are involved. And also you need to really follow the ethical principle in terms of the plagiarism, you need to avoid it. And also you need to go through the process of submitting, reviewing, editing, etc. And also in terms of publication, it's really the recognition of your work so that you can validate your results and also the findings about a peer in the discipline. That's what we're working on in this academic world. Well, we are assuming that all the work is through the peer review, okay? So it's assuming that your work is being validated and assessed by your peer working in the same area. That's how we work in all these journals and the conference reviews process. And more importantly, if you're working, embarking on an academic career or research career, you cannot get away from publication because this is one of the means for you to gain your credential and the recognition. So as I have said, I'm really pleased looking at our papers which are published 27 years ago in 1993, still being cited today over 500 times. And you also need to use this to build up your network. All these will link to the plan I'm going to talk about. Because our research is no longer just a one single person, individual's work. A lot of time you need to work. I myself work closely with my students and my colleagues as well. So, but you should also work with people outside of your organization. And also in a way that our academic work is really making a contribution to the knowledge. And of course, if you are in the career, if you're working in these professions, unfortunately, I use the word quotation mark, maybe you need to survive on this because a lot of time, they are now being used as an assessment of individual performance. And then they even use it as some kind of criteria for the student, you can graduate or not, you can submit the thesis or not. If you are going through your probation period, they need to assess, are you meeting the probation requirements? Okay. Okay, so what are the observations? Well, I can tell you that university management and government, they have a growing interest and the focus on the global ranking and justification on the expenses and investment. So because when they look at it, a lot of the university are public investment. Well, of course, I know that the individual countries are quite different. Say, for example, in India, I know that a lot of the university private, so you might really have to work on your own, but you still want to gain yourself on the ranking so that you can attract more good quality students. But in university, in Australia point of view, majority of us are public university. But having said that, the actual money, budget given to us from the government actually is quite limited. We are not really having a lot we have to gain from our own research funding, etc. Because they're quite easy for them to quantify and for some measurement. And also, the number and venue of publication have become the goal and answer for graduate studies, because a lot of time I come across people asking me, how many papers I need to publish before I graduate? Well, although there's no hard and fast rule, but gradually some implicit expectation is in there. Well, but my question, are they the ultimate aims of study and research? Well, if it is, then I say it's pretty sad. I do not believe in publishing for the sake of publishing. Well, mark my word. Anyway, it doesn't matter with me. And what do you do as regarded research career? So if that is being used as some kind of assessment, then you need to plan accordingly. So this is where I make some proposal for you, how you plan for your writing and your submission for your research work. You must start off with a research plan. You must have a long-term and overarching of a research question, one you want to work on. You can last one, not only just within your